September 17, 2019, Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Neal?
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck?
Here.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr.
Here.
Hennings? Here. Mr. Oakley?
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bless you.
Next, we're going to have comments from visitors. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation as it pertains to school-related topics will be permitted at each meeting. Each person wishing to address the board will approach the podium and state his, her name, and address. If several people wish to speak, each person will be allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had an opportunity to do so. The period of public participation may be extended by a vote of the majority of the board. Anyone? Anyone? We're going to move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Superintendent's report will be two parts tonight. I'm just going to do a real brief report quickly on issue number 2. What is issue 2? I think we want to just talk a little bit about this, and that we have it on camera tonight would be good as you're probably seeing a lot of literature going out about that. Issue 2, we got that number just recently, is a renewal of a tax levy that was first passed in May of 2015. What is it? It produces 6 mills, which comes out to just about $1.6 million per year in annual revenue. You guys, as a Board of Education, did the 2 readings on that and approval, so we're ready for that. I think the point that we're obviously emphasizing with this is that issue 2 does not raise taxes. It does not do that. And because it's a 5-year levy, it obviously needs renewal every 5 years, so we're continuing to do that. This is not one, it's an operating levy that you can fluctuate, like an emergency levy, which you can put for multiple years. So that's, first of all, what is it? Why the need? I think the first thing that I like to just continue to tell folks is this, is that the state of Ohio continues to underfund the Brooklyn City schools. The 2 cases in point with that are tangible personal property tax. You know, to go into that again, I mean, we received over $2 million in that back in 2010. Right now, we're probably at about the $200,000 level. So it's diminished incredibly and will be gone within the next couple of years. The other piece of that is certainly where we are in terms of getting state funding per pupil from the state. And we are still below what non-public schools are receiving per pupil. We're one of only 26 districts in that. As I've said to you, the governor had a provision in, or I should say, there was a provision in the General Assembly in the biennium budget for base funding that would have been at the non-pub level. Unfortunately, the governor line item that. So we're still fighting that. The thing I want to say, though, is despite those challenges, we have avoided deficit spending within the district. And that has a lot to do with our cost savings. I shared this at Convocation. Again, the Brooklyn City schools continue to live within their means. We are doing so. And that is what our community has asked us to do. That's why they're putting their trust in us with the passage of issue 1, certainly in the spring. So I think that is an important piece. Why also? You know, we do not have a permanent improvement levy. I think that is another element that's significant here. Obviously, we had 2 cracks at that apple back in 2017. Unfortunately, neither of those passed. With that being said, we've got to use operating dollars for our facilities and the maintenance, particularly of this facility right here. It's now 4+ years old and still is going to need that. And we have a circa 1955 high school. So there is general maintenance and some, some facilities and repairs that are necessary for those particular things, which we've experienced. Plus, we're looking at that. We want to keep that quality education up. Technology, if you notice here, we've put about 400 Chromebooks into the schools just this past month. We're not to 1-to-1 yet. We'd like to get there. With the renewal levy, we'll be able to go forth and get that second half and do that. Instructional materials. There's many materials that our fine teachers here tonight, are working with that are, probably decades old. And so we need to continue to keep those upgraded and get those up to date. And certainly with the technologies in 21st century learning. And professional development, training our teachers, investing in our teachers takes money, takes time, and we've got to be able to do that. I mean, some of the things that Mrs. Kalish has done with letters training, with the math coaching, those are significant elements that obviously take revenue. So there's some big pieces here, and obviously we've put some money into our facilities where necessary as well. So, how can you learn more about it? Certainly, we have a couple of finance forums that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. The first of which will be in just a couple of short weeks here in the auditorium on September 30th. The Brooklyn School Levy Support Our Schools website is available. Certainly, I'm contacting myself, Mr. Hoskin, our administrative staff, with the bottom line that we want to continue to provide, big school opportunities in our small school setting. That is something that we heard over and over from folks and from residents, is that they enjoy and they cherish the small school setting in Brooklyn. So wanted to really just kind of take a moment to talk about issue 2 and the importance of that tonight on camera. So the second half, I'm going to bring Mrs. Kalish up. The state recently released state report cards, and I'm going to not steal any of her thunder, and she's going to go forth and talk a little bit about that.
So I'm not going to take a whole lot of your time tonight. Certainly we'll answer any questions that the board may have, but just wanted to give you guys an overview of where we are. So the report card came in very similar to last year. So we're looking at an overall grade of C. Our indicators, we are standing at a D, which is not where we want to be, and we know that. But one of the things that we looked at was within each of those areas, we saw growth. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where those growth areas are. And we expect that we'll continue to see that growth as we move forward. So while the report card doesn't always reflect those small changes that we see, we know that we're making them and we're moving in the right direction. And the fact that we didn't lose ground is also a positive, right? Because there's always constant metrics that are changing for us in the report card, and we're constantly trying to, beat those. And so the fact that we didn't lose ground is also a positive. A couple of the areas I want to highlight is the area of progress. I'm going to spend a little time on that tonight, because I think that really gives a clear view of where we are inside the report card when you dig in. And also want to celebrate our graduation rate, because that's a challenge for some districts, especially with the high mobility rate and with a free and reduced lunch population like we have. So the fact that we're still able to graduate students on time is a plus for all of our staff that are working hard to get our kids to that final destination. So areas of strength, as I mentioned, achievement. We saw gains in 8th grade ELA, 8th grade math. Geometry, saw significant gains. Remember, if you recall, we were down in about the 18%, and we moved out to 30. Now, it's not proficient, but that's a huge gain when you look at from one year to the next, and we want to continue to move in that direction. Some of the things that we're putting in place this year, we're starting using MAP testing. Our teachers are actually engaged in that right now, and that's going to give us some more data about where our kids currently are all the way up into the high school, which we have not done in the past. And we'll be able to see where our kids are deficient, where they need more support, and start to dig down and start providing some interventions for them. And then American history saw gains as well. We moved up into the 91st percentile rank, I think, so we moved up significantly there. I'm going to talk about progress, and then again the graduation rate. So I know this slide's a little hard to see, and I'll share this with the board. Dr. Gleikoff said he could share it out with you in his Friday update to you so you can see it a little bit closer. But if you look at progress, these are the component areas that go into that grade. The overall, the measures the progress students made in math, ELA, in grades 4 through 8, and some of the end of course exams. Gifted students are included in there. Students at the lowest 20s achievement percentile rank, those are your kids that are at risk. And then our students with disabilities. Notice we got an A with students with disabilities. Now you think back and you look at the gap closure and why the discrepancy. And Dr. Glykoff and I had just a little bit of a conversation about that in his office. And some of that comes down to how the measure is calculated. We were actually extremely close, almost got a C in that measure, but we got demoted for some, we don't know, technical error. So we're going to try to figure out what that is. But we were really close to a C in the gap closure. But our students with disabilities are making gains. Again, it's not where we want them to be. We want them to be closer to on grade level, but they are certainly making gains. And then our lowest achieving students are making gains. And that's an area also that districts often struggle with. So we can celebrate that we're actually working hard to meet those needs for those kiddos. The green and the yellow will show, and there's a key at the bottom. Green and yellow. Green shows that we made above average growth. Yellow means that students made expected growth. And then of course red is where your areas that you need to focus in. So and remember I said we made growth in 8th grade. We still have work to do there, but we made some growth. So how are we improving? Some of the things that we're doing is focusing on classroom instruction. You've heard me talk about this before. We've implemented Haggerty in the elementary building for K through 3 for phonics instruction. That's a program that's very scripted in helping students identify the phonics sounds and awareness of the phonological components of the English language, which is going to help in their ability to learn how to read. We've also implemented letters training grades K through 8. All of our interventionists and ELA teachers are going through that process right now, and it's intense, and they can talk to you about that if you ask them about it. They're finding it to be valuable, but it's a lot of things that they didn't know, especially some of our high school teachers that are trained that way. For example, Ms. Smith, who's a trained English teacher for the high school, is also going through the training, and she said, you know, when I was teaching in high school English, I never knew any of this. And it would have been nice to know because I'd understand why my kids came to me unable to read. So as I have mentioned before, our goal is once we're through our 2-year cohort with grades K through 8 is to then implement it for our social studies teachers and some of our high school teachers to help develop that base of knowledge so they can intervene with kids that move into their class in 9th grade, so on and so forth. So we want to make sure we give them all that support. We made some moves in the K-7 building to help support student instruction. We're focusing on the areas of weakness through the new assessment tool that I mentioned. We have our benchmarking going on right now, and then we'll have a trainer come in and we'll be meeting with each of our teachers for about an hour to dig deep into the reports and really identify areas of weakness in our student population and how to provide interventions for them. And then continued professional development. One of the things when I came on board that I said to Dr. Glykoff is we can expect change and we can expect better outcomes, but unless we provide that support for our teachers, we're not going to see the things we want to see. So we need to do things differently. And so we're providing that PD, going into classrooms, and then providing those opportunities for them to go out and see what other districts are doing as well. Because sometimes the best shared knowledge is when you have that conversation with a colleague who says, hey, what about this way? And so we want to be able to give those opportunities. So that's a quick overview. I know there's a lot to the report card and I could spend hours up here, but I think you'd start glazing over. But I want to give you an opportunity to provide some feedback to me, any questions you have that you would like me to try to answer.
Is it fair to say that the inside measurements are showing the growth, continues to improve, and say if it's on a, excuse me, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're going from a 2 to a 3, and the overall grade is, what the overall number is a standalone number, which is kind of misleading, which is why the Olmsted Falls superintendent basically just discounted the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I know he's not alone.
Right. Yeah, actually, I just came from Columbus today. I was in Columbus all day at a legislative meeting in which we talked a good portion of the day about the report card and the frustration that many superintendents across the state are facing when trying to have conversation with their boards and with their communities about what the report card is saying and what we're actually seeing out of students. And what is the expectation of our community? Does the report card, what is the goal of the report card? Is it to play a gotcha game? Is it to rank districts from 1 to 610? Or is it to really show these are the areas of strength, these are the areas of weakness that you need to focus on, and let's continue to move forward for our students? And that, I think, is the part that's missing, is we're not really giving districts and communities a true read about what's happening inside the walls of the school, we're playing a gotcha game in some ways.
Right.
And a lot of that is when we talk about the prepared for success. 84% of districts in the state of Ohio got a D or an F. And we're talking about districts who are sending kids to college, sending kids to career pathways, sending kids to the military, whatever their pathways are. I mean, think about our own student population. We've got kids going to college, we've got kids doing great things after high school, but we're not getting credit for that because of the way the metric is calculated.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. 6 out of the 7 indicators for that measure are college measures. So when we talk about we need to create pathways for career ways, for kids to go into the skilled trades, we're not really measuring that on the report card. We're penalizing districts who have kids that choose that pathway. So we're going to work at that and continue to have a voice. And hopefully there will be some revisions to the report card. That's out there right now. So stay tuned. Mark and I will keep you updated on where that's going, but they are talking about changing the way the report card is laid out. What that looks like, we'll get to see. So,
Who designed the report card?
well, do you want to take that? I mean, Chris Woolard is one of the authors of the report card, if you will, but it came out of legislation, really. I mean, the legislation really drove what we see today. So it's legislators making decisions about, just like they do with school funding, right? They're making blanket decisions that sound great on paper, but then when you actually implement them and you see the results of them, you start to realize that maybe they weren't the best, even though there was good intention. What they end up with is not necessarily what they had hoped for. So.
I mean, even in the past, when they would have subgroups that maybe we wouldn't qualify for because the subgroup was so small.
Correct.
But we get penalized for,
And
we only have 3 and we needed 10
Small-
students of that subgroup.
small schools typically get hit harder on report card information because you have a smaller subset of data, right? And a smaller population of students to pull that data from. So traditionally, small school districts have really taken a hit on some of those subgroups that you're talking about, for sure. And now they've reduced the N size, which has other implications that are affecting districts. So yeah, we're having those conversations, but it's a lot like the funding issue. When you fix one thing, you have to look at how is that affecting everything else. So I'm actually on the report card committee, so I'll be traveling back to Columbus. I think I have a meeting next month, and we'll start having those conversations about what that report card is going to change to, and how is that. We're trying to get our voice heard. Let's not make it punitive. You know, we got a 10-point reduction because we had kids that didn't participate in the special education testing. Now, and we're talking 7 kids. 7 kids out of 130. So really, we had a 10-point deduction, which moved us from a C to a D. That's not fair. So, you know, those are the kind of arguments we're having with.
Is there somebody on the Legislative Services Commission on your committee?
Yeah, so there's quite a group that's lobbying for these changes. So BASA, and we are also talking with some of the community groups, business owners, you know, people because we want to make sure that all stakeholders are heard in this, and that we're getting a true understanding of what people really want. You know, do businesses want soft skills? Well, that's part of what we're teaching kids, right? But there's no measure for that here. So
3 of the organizations that we're directly affiliated with, BASA, who most of us administrators are, the Alliance, which we are a member of, as well as OSBA. You know, they're 3 people that are at the table really lobbying on our part, because we've got voices with each of those organizations, and hence trying to really, you know, talk about what the report card should and should not be. You know, Mr. Oprah put a good point. I mean, there's many pundits who would say that homogeneous school districts have an advantage over more diversified, stratified school districts, because they have more ways to get tripped up. So, but that's a challenge. Okay, we acknowledge that, but we're hoping that somehow they can account for that, somehow in the report card reporting. You know, that's why a lot of districts, and we instituted that a couple of years ago, we added the quality profile. Because we believe that just a few figures and metrics do not simply tell the story. You know, what's the story of Brooklyn that we want to tell? We want to tell about student successes. We want to tell about the opportunities. We want to tell about what our great students are doing and what things they're experiencing. So, you know, the report card we could talk about for hours, but I don't think you want to do that. You don't, because we'll probably get off on. But I think at the end of the day, I look at it, the current report card, and I think, what do we want from our students? We want them to graduate, and we want them to make progress. And if there's two measures on that report card that measure that, Brooklyn received an A in both of those. And so those are the things we can say, hey, we're doing well, but you know what? It also identifies areas that we have to continue to focus in on and make adjustments. So.
Anything else?
Anybody else? Good, thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Ms. Gage, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Hoskins.
I don't have anything official. I do have something to bring up when we get down to board business.
Okay.
Next week's meeting, I have a lot of different agenda items to have the board look at and approve. We have to have an appropriation before October 1st. So that'll be on there along with some other changes. But today,
All
nothing.
right, fine with me. Moving on to board members and committee reports. We're going to start with Mrs. Barczyk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for everyone for coming tonight. I'm going to keep my comments brief since I'm the reader tonight, my favorite thing in the world to do. For my updates, for the Domestic Violence Committee, they are taking donations of clothing, household items, toiletries. There will be bins in the police department. They're taking donations from October 15th through October 24th. And our next meeting is, the location has not been set yet, but October 16th is the day that we believe it's going to be set. And we're trying to go down to each of the apartment buildings, and so go into their party rooms. So maybe invite more of the community into the meetings and be more engaging and more open, and so that more welcoming for people to attend. They are open to the public, and anyone can come. So if you would like to come to that meeting, it's on October 16th. It will be at 6 o'clock. The location is to be determined on that. For my student achievement, Ms. Kalish took my thunder there. That's okay. Perfectly fine. That's all right. There's a lot of events coming up at the beginning of October. There's Volley for a Cure. There's the Homecoming Week, which is a lot of fun for the kids. I hope everyone has a great time with that. There's our sports teams are doing very well. Our football team did great before Mother Nature stepped in and took charge Friday night and showed us who was really the boss and who was running the show. And our band did well in Medina at the band show. Our band will actually be performing on the Ohio State Stadium turf, I guess is how you would say that. And how many people in their life can say that they've done that? They will be doing that September 28th. Tickets for that event, pre-sale tickets are $15, $20 at the gate the day of. So we're performing, I think, around 12:30. That ticket will get you in to see all the other bands. And at 9 o'clock, the Ohio State Band themselves will be performing. So it's a great honor that Brooklyn is able to be a part of that. And I think it's a big deal for the kids. It's a really something that they can say that they did. It's a really good thing for them. I hope everybody has a good fall. I hope you come and try to come out and support our sports teams. And that's all I have. Oh, and if I can always be reached at 216-406-4304 for anything. If anyone would like to reach me, you can text me or call me on that number. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very good. On to Mr. Hennings.
Thanks, Mr. President. Well, summer's over and everybody's back in school now for a couple of weeks, and most of the complaining is over and they're pretty well situated in and happy to be in school. I attended a rec board meeting last night. As many of you know, Saturday morning basketball appears to be coming back. It'll be held here. On Friday night, they're going to do the first and second grade.
and Saturday morning will be the 3rd through 6th. I believe everybody realized that was Vern's Cutrights group that he did, and he's quite happy about it because more kids will be able to get involved. So we'll have more kids involved, which is a good feeder program for the basketball teams. I hope everybody made it home safe before the storm hit. I know the football team got cut short, 25-0, on a day where you get that many points and you don't get to finish the rest of it. So that was a shame.
So get the victory.
Yeah, it's a victory. They've already logged it down as a victory. So we're 2-1 now. Next week is, or I should say this week is Independence. So if everybody can come out, it'd be great.
At Independence?
At Independence, yes.
Independence.
Believe there's a volleyball game tonight, so.
There's a volleyball game tonight and tomorrow night. There's
Right.
a volleyball game.
So if you can come out, please come out and cheer them on. Also, October 2nd, there's going to be a homecoming bonfire at the Acres. That's correct? That's still on, Mr. Slattery? All right, thank you very much. Weather permitting. We'll do it in the rain, too. And that's about all I have. Oh, well, the basketball at the field house during the summer went very well. They probably had about 30 to 40 kids a day there playing basketball, so that was that went over real well, Mr. Abruzzi said. So they're probably going to try it again next year too. The pickleball, that didn't go over so well. But the basketball, most of the kids were doing 3-on-3 tournaments right there, and they only had to get involved a couple of times to calm them down. So that's real well. That's good. I know everybody's waiting for the play, so we're all going to wait for the play to see what the name of the play is that's going to be this year. And that's all I have.
You got it. Thanks, Mr. Hennings. We're going to go on to Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to welcome our councilperson, Kathy Pucci, here to the meeting. Nice to see you.
Nick Shocky's here too.
Pardon?
Nick Shocky's here too.
The one over there.
Oh, okay. Hi, Meg. I didn't see you hiding in the corner over there. Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for your interest in the schools. Glad you're here because I'd like to remind everybody that today is Constitution Day. This date, the formation and ratification of our U.S. Constitution occurred. This date also recognizes those who are born both in the United States or by naturalization and have become citizens. I'm first generation myself. This date also recognizes not only those who are born or naturalized here in the United States, but it reminds people of how important the document that was formed that creates the Constitution is. Only 25% of all Americans, based on a recent study, know when it was written and when it was ratified. So the Constitution was ratified in 1791, prepared in 1787. Or how many amendments, or what those amendments were. It's amazing how many people don't know the amendments that protect our freedoms. Originally 10 with the Bill of Rights, and now we're at 27 amendments. Additional information about our Constitution can be obtained by getting the application. There's an app for everything. It's Constitution Center, all one word, .org/interactive. That's the site. Last Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending the band show in Medina, sponsored by the Medina Schools and their band boosters. Brooklyn did very well, and comments were made by other school patrons. You know, walking around, talking to other people from other schools, they said Brooklyn sounded to look the best. And especially with such tough competition as Massillon, Washington, Medina, Bees, and the Wadsworth schools. Their school sizes are about double ours. And so that was very impressive, and they did a fantastic job. There were 11 high school bands represented, and thousands were in attendance for this event this past Saturday. So kudos to the entire staff and all the volunteers for such a great event. I'd like to remind people that, if I get to that spot, there's a cheerleading fundraiser this Saturday, September 21st at 7 p.m. at Bleachers on Ridge Road near Day Drive. Food and drink are provided. It costs $25 per person. Sideboards and Chinese auction will be available. Please support our Brooklyn cheerleaders and band. If you need tickets, call Kelly Supek, because I think she has most of the tickets, if not all of them. Looking forward to the upcoming Brooklyn homecoming events and senior nights. I'd like to ask everybody who's listening and watching, please support the athletic department with our fundraising drive to purchase a banner for the field house or the stadium. Spot's still available. Proceeds go to help our athletic department. Contact Mr. Jim Burba for more information. Finally, again, tooting our horns, finally, as previously mentioned, the passage of our issue 2, no new taxes, is critical if we're going to continue to show improvements to our district and maintain the momentum, as was evidenced by the presentation today by both of our administrators. And it could not be done without the help of Dr. Glykoff, his administration, all the teachers and staff, teaching staff that do make Brooklyn very proud. If you need a sign for your front yard, please call the board office. I can be reached at 216-978-1931 or at rick.singer@bcshurricanes.org. And a report.
Thank you, sir. And on to Mr. Oper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank everybody that's attending tonight. My Polaris report, we had a tour last week during our meeting, and it's just about done, the renovation. It's in time, it's under budget. The last few offices, central administration and the corporate and community partnership offices will be done Friday. The teachers and staff have been raving about it, as well as the students. The front parking lot is done, and the commons area behind where meetings were held is much bigger now, and there's, it's gotta be 144-inch TV, I think, mounted against the wall, which is interactive, can be used for Skype meetings to have students look at medical procedures in real time, for example. And that can be broken down in several quadrants of the screen, so it's really neat. The ribbon cutting will be Tuesday, October 15th at 4:30, which will also coincide with the business advisory dinner and on our monthly meeting. Local, state, and national elected officials will be invited with past and present board members, superintendents, suppliers, staff, and heads of the construction and architect companies, and there'll be about 500 people. There'll be an infographic presentation highlighting the construction process. Chef O will be serving as usual excellent food from the Polaris restaurant Savor. And the following day will be a community day from 12 to 5 where tours and classroom demonstrations will happen, and that invitation is extended to all the communities involved, plus other associate district board members and associate school administrators, and light refreshments will be served. Sorry, Bunny.
I know. The Polaris dinner is one of the, like,
It is the dinner.
is the dinner.
I'll tell you how it was.
Thanks, Bob.
Take a picture of your food, send it.
Send it to all of
I'll
us.
bring you a doggy bag.
Send it to Rocky, Rick, and I,
Yeah.
who won't be there.
I'll take pictures.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Pictures, that's good, yeah.
It's the best meal of the year.
It's the, it is.
I'd like to also congratulate the sports teams on a great start in the fall schedule. And to echo Mr. Singer's sentiments of issue 2, it's needed, and that's pretty much all you need to say about that. It's needed for continuous improvement of our schools. I can be reached at james.oper@bcshurricanes.org or at 216-485-8195. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. One of my committees is the Finance Committee. We spoke about future levies, and that's what we need to have a conversation about in the near future, trying to figure all the math of those in the near future. Technology, we've included a lot of technology as one of my committees as well, too, and that's, I'm a big believer in the Chromebooks, and in due time, we'll have one for each kid. That is our goal. That is my goal, along with the rest of the board. And that's something that I think that's very attainable, and I think we need to be in that space. Yesterday, had an EOP meeting on safety and discipline. We are implementing shortly a emergency management system coming soon, where you'll need your driver's license to get into school, get scanned, get a badge. There's some good things going on there. The door stops have been installed in almost all the rooms, from my understanding. And in the weeks to come, we're gonna have Polaris students helping us with some safety along the driveways and the entrances. So, and those are some good things that are going on here. Again, renewal issue number 2, no new taxes. We will continue to fight the state, but it's a tough fight. It's an uphill battle, but it's what we have to do. Dr. Glykoff has led us best he can, and we've also yelled and screamed the best we can, but we will still keep kicking and screaming here. So, we're gonna go on to, where we at here? Superintendent, our recommendations.
Minutes.
Superintendent recommendation, where am I?
Approve of minutes.
Approval of minutes.
Approval of minutes, I'm sorry, I'm way past here. Approval of the minutes and financial statements, I'm sorry. Tonight's reader is Bonnie Hartcheck.
Thanks. Resolved that the minutes of the August 28, 2019 Board of Education meeting be adopted and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved.
Can I have a motion,
So
please?
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Here, yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of August 2019, including all disbursements and then and now statements for July and August as submitted.
Motion, please.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins?
We were able to close last Thursday. So we did better than last month by 8 days, and hopefully that'll get better as time goes on. We're still having some issues with the software, but we're narrowing it down. So next month I hope to be a lot faster,
On
and
time.
we can get that done.
All our teachers are getting paid?
Everybody's getting paid.
I think we'd hear about that if they were, Rick.
That is
Yeah,
that
I
is
thought
a
maybe the reason why our teachers are here.
that is
getting
the
a
number one
paycheck.
priority.
All right.
Closing the books is secondary to that.
Anybody else? Good.
I just want to get an evaluation. I know it's been a short time, but how is the payroll system working overall?
It has some bumps. It's not completely smooth. Sometimes we have to redo things again and again, which doesn't make any sense. Sometimes the rules change, the process changes, and we're adjusting to that. We are in constant contact with Connect to make sure that we understand what's happening and how to hopefully resolve that in the future. We're finding that we can set up different pay groups to establish shortcuts so that we don't have to continue enter on a monthly basis those things that repeat. And hopefully that will help speed up the process.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into an inter-district service area agreement with the Education Service Center of Cuyahoga County per the provisions of section 3313.17 and 3313.814 and 3313.842 and 3313.91 and 3323.01 of the Ohio Revised Code for the 2019-2020 school year. Agreement on file in central office.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Questions, comments?
Pretty standard agreement with the ESC of Northeast Ohio. For instance, hiring a gifted interventionist, English language learner teacher. We have these on an annual basis.
That includes speech pathology and audiology.
As needed, yes.
That's like the bullpen, going to the bullpen. Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into agreement with the Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County Achievement Centers for Children for the placement of students into their education program per ORC 3323.08 for the 2019-2020 school year. Agreement on file in the Treasurer's Office.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
This is actually for the Achievement Center. We have one student per the student's IEP that is placed at the Achievement Center.
How much is that?
$74,000.
Anyone else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the application of the following fundraising activity on file in the Treasurer's Office. Brooklyn Music Boosters Choir Candy Sale September through October 2019. Bring them to the board meetings. We all love chocolate, just an FYI. Brooklyn Music Boosters Malleys. We love Malleys too. Spring 2020. And the Brooklyn Music Boosters Gold Cards on sale now September 7th, 2019.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
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 Questions, comments?
Pretty standard. Music Boosters getting their fundraisers in for the year here, so.
Gold cards are the best.
They are the best, they are the best,
If you use it.
yeah.
Marco's Pizza.
There you go. You can bring those board meetings, right?
Board
Yep.
meetings, even if you're off
Yep.
the board, you're gonna bring us some pizza there.
Oh, yeah. I'll have them delivered.
All right, anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following volunteers: Rajef Gunguder and Stefan Apolitolik. I'm sorry, I'm sure I butchered your names. For the high school TEALS computer science program for the 2019-2020 school year.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, these are two gentlemen who are computer programmers who help in our TEALS computer science program with Mr. Temis. So they volunteer. One, I think, is once a week. The other is every other week. So
Can you define what the acronym TEALS is?
I cannot.
Technology.
I'm lost on that one.
I probably could make something up right now, but
Yeah.
I'll find that out for you.
Yeah.
Does anybody in the audience know? No.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the temporary change of hours for Linda Prusiak from custodial cleaner 6 hours per day, Appendix B, Step 8, to custodial cleaner 7 hours per day, Appendix B, Step 8, from August 26, 2019 through September 25th, 2019.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yes, Mrs. Prusek is filling in for another cleaner who has been out on medical leave.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Mark Flanagan, custodial cleaner for 5 hours per day, Step 1, Appendix B, effective September 9th, 2019, and Natasha Swecker, head cook, for 8 hours per day, Step 22, Appendix A, effective September 16th, 2019.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Couple of classified hires. First of all, Mr. Flanagan, one of our recent grads, wanted to take on one of our cleaning positions. It's great as he's going to school and he's wanting to earn some extra money. And then Mrs. Swecker is taking on the head cook position, which has been vacated recently. So
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education approves the resignation of Linda Mahalik and Natasha Swecker for the CATS program effective September 13th, 2019.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Mrs. Swecker first, resigning from the position because she's taking on the head cook position. Linda Mahalik, though, is resigning and kind of just retiring. So we're happy for her, and she's spent many years in the CATS program after school.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Debbie Colai, 6 hours per day as a CATS employee at an hourly rate of $14.52 for the 2019-2020 school year.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
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 Questions, comments?
This one is just the employment of Mrs. Colai. The next resolution is Mrs. Mateka. Both of these were kind of the flow-through for the CATS, so their approval of their year's hours and their rate of pay.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Result of the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Mary Matika, CATS preschool classroom assistant at $13.26 per hour, 30 hours per week, with up to 5 additional hours per week for the 2019-2020 school year.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
I think I just explained it, but just the extra hours, typically the program, there's extra hours on Fridays for planning, so.
Okay. Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education approves the resignation of Natasha Swecker, assistant cook, effective September 13th, 2019.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Probably could have put this in the other resignation resolution, but
The flip-flop.
I was gonna say we could have flip-flopped over
because
this.
Ms. Swecker's had cook hours are 8 hours, she was actually employed in 2 positions that added up to that. One of which was the assistant cook and then the cast position, so.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2019-2020 supplemental teaching assignments with the provision that such individuals comply with all rules and regulations and State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certifications and fulfills the requirements of the job descriptions attached to the supplemental contract as noted.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, these are the supplemental teaching assignments for the year. The good folks that are with us tonight, they don't just teach in their classes. Many of them do a lot of activities outside, whether it's being involved as team leaders or coordinating trips, whatever the case may be, involved with yearbook, advisor, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So these are all those assignments during the course of the school year.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
No.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the salary schedule placement for Jamie Bader, Class 5, Step 9, Kimberly Cipriani, Class 5, Step 10.5 for the 2019-2020 school year.
Motion,
Point
please.
of order.
Oh, I think I read that wrong, actually.
That's class 4 then.
Class 4, sorry.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Class 4.
My glass.
Yeah, Class 4.
We got it. Point of order, corrected.
I-
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, both Mrs. Barber and Mrs. Cipriani, they, during the course of the summer, completed coursework that would get them up to a new class in their salary schedule. So they've got the requisite hours for that.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Yes.
Financial, is
Yeah,
that
that
you
just-
or?
Yeah, just read it because we're going to accept it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Resolved that the minutes of the July 10th, 2019 Finance Committee meeting will be accepted.
Okay, motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments? Mr. Hoskins, this is just a meeting we've had, one of the Finance Committee meetings we're putting into record, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Anybody else? Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings?
Yes.
Mr. Oper?
Yes.
Mr. Neal?
Correspondence related to action information. Anybody?
Maybe, it falls under that. Every year, at Capitol Conference, the Ohio School Boards Association asks that representatives be sent a delegate and an alternate to the business meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't done that, and it's supposed to have been there last week. So I'm hoping tonight that of the 2 or 3 members that are going, we can come up with a delegate and an alternate.
Yeah, I'll go.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Jim.
Jim and Rick.
That's what your payment is for getting that dinner.
Bob, you going still?
Yeah, I'll go.
All right.
I may
Last
go.
time.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to go. I don't know. I may go, but
Okay,
All
so
right.
it's
Jim
it's
or
Miss-
Rick,
Mr.
Rick or
Oper,
Jim.
Mr. Singer.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
All right.
'Cause I'm not
You got-
sure
at least you
going
got
down.
names.
Thank you.
No problem. Anything else? Any other business? Reminder, next regular school board meeting is October 8th.
No,
because-
September 25th.
They're all
Oh,
regular.
well, I'm in here. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. In October's meeting, 15th is moved to the 8th
Yes.
because of Mr. Oper and Mr. Hennings.
And Dr. Glykoff, don't forget.
You're going too?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody but me
I get to
you,
partake
and
as
Rick.
well. I'm crashing that party.
Well, Dave's still here.
I'm still here.
You don't get to go, Dave, but Mark gets to go? That's,
I
That's
did get an
Claire's
invitation.
dinner.
So in other business, I left
Go ahead.
you kind of a note there, as I was looking at the next month, we have a few important dates, so I thought I'd just throw that with you. Starting with next week's meeting, the finance forum, we changed the board meeting, a few other things there just of note. So I wanted you guys to all have that. And just again with Brooklyn shirts, you know, if you have an order, send that to me. And then I also left you kind of a template right now of what we have for our talking points for our renewal. So take a look at that if you have any questions or edits for me. You know, we're working on that stuff right now. So I want to share that both. I want to share all those documents with you guys. So that's all I had.
Anybody else? Other business? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Wait a minute. I apologize. Back up. Announcement of next regular board meeting. I apologize. Wednesday, September 25th, 2019, in the Treasurers Conference Room located at the Board of Education Office, 9200 Bidoff, Brooklyn, Ohio, 6 p.m. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Hoskins, can you call the roll?
Mrs. Barcheck?
Yes.
Mr. Singer?
Yes.
Mr. Hennings? Yes. Mr. Strover?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Time is 6:51.
Motion is adjourned.